Come, let us explore this dawn's meditation class and group practice that we too could meditate like a Jedi. Good morning, Julian. Buenos dias, senor. Here we go. Let us begin this morning's class by teaching or expounding from the 9th verse of Prahevajra's The Unwaning Victory Banner. Together let us relaxingly recite. The suffering of beings is the mind of perfect purity. When it manifests as perfected, unmoving and unstirring, it abides equally in all, just like infinite space. Okay, now this is going to sound a little bit weird, even weirder than my face. So check this out. I'm going to go over here for a moment and drag us kicking and screaming to a visual aid. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. And this is best summarized by the yang and the yin, by Devadatta or Shakyamuni, or by the right and the left. Most of us were born into cultures that indoctrinated us to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Some of us have the good fortune to evolve away from that in the direction of being flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. These folks on the left are happy just to practice. The ones on the right are all about elitism. They're all about going through life as if it was a zero-sum game. Going through life assuming that they can only win if they make someone else lose. It explains a lot about what's going on with the rise of fascism, doesn't it? So these people are rigid and fearful and superstitious and controlling and elitist. And they are convinced that if you're suffering, it's because you deserve it. And they have spent multiple centuries, multiple millennia, twisting the Buddha's teachings. When we look at the Eightfold Path, the original path of enlightenment, there is no mention of karma, but there is a mention of love. 50% of it pertains to love. There's no love in looking at someone and victim blaming. There's no love in looking at a child born disabled or born to abusive or neglectful parents and say, well, they must have earned it through their misdeeds in a previous life, which I can't prove exists, but it exists because it proves my point. Harumph. That is horrible, ugly bullshit. That's why my meditation manual, Easy Enlightenment, in the second chapter, I explore that suffering is ubiquitous. There is circumstantial suffering. There is physical. Let me rephrase this. There are stressors. There are circumstantial stressors. There are physical stressors. There are interpersonal stressors, and there are mental stressors. And we evolved the capacity to perceive stressors as a survival instinct. Biology has shown us time and again, whenever an individual is born without the capacity to perceive stress or pain, they don't live to adulthood. The inability to perceive stressors is a death sentence. So, yes, no one in their right mind would argue that stress can be profoundly inconvenient, but it keeps us alive. However, those who are rigid and fearful and superstitious and controlling and elitists aren't about that. They're standing on a tree stump, pointing at people suffering and saying, "Shinna, you's in a heap of trouble." I'm trying to do an imitation of the King of the Gungans. Anyway, let's move forward. What the author of this text is saying that suffering is not an indictment. It is not an obstacle to the mind of perfect purity. Which begs the question, what is the mind of perfect purity? And to answer that question, we're going to return to our visual aid. Let's hit button 9. So first, let's talk about the impure mind. No, the impure mind is not what you experience during puberty. Impure mind is this. When we follow bad advice, when we abuse our medial prefrontal cortex and our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex by over-focusing and over-analyzing, we exhaust the front of our brain to the point that we begin presenting with symptoms of depression. We trigger our amygdala, which functions as the seat of both anxiety and aggression. Now, these are prime survival instincts, but they evolved to be used sparingly. It's kind of like when a dragster burns nitro. It's designed to be done sparingly. You wouldn't put it in a Formula 500 car that runs for a very, very, very long time. It would literally melt the engine. So both in physics and in nature, we see things that are evolved to be used sparingly. However, when we live from the worldview of being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, we overuse this front bit and this lower bit, and it makes us miserable. However, neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Allow me to introduce you to our spinal cord. Together, it's known as our autonomic nervous system. The middle bit is known as the sympathetic nervous system. The bits towards the end, towards the tips, the bit at the tip. That sounds a little salacious, doesn't it? The bits at the tips are known as the parasympathetic nervous system, and together they give us the mental purity. That's vague though. What are they talking about? Simply this. The easiest way to practice mindfulness, the sevenfold of the Buddha's eightfold path, is to passively cooperate with our autonomic nervous system in such a way that as we inhale, we cannot help but notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. That's everything. That's the whole Megillah. We notice everything, the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. Like that boo-boo face that stares at you in the mirror after you've woken up, and it's quite puffy and wrinkled and something out of a monster movie. I wake up and I look in the mirror and it's like, what happened to the gorgeous version of me when I was 19? The most efficient way to practice meditation, the eightfold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, is to passively cooperate with our exhalation, to passively cooperate with the end bits of our parasympathetic nervous system that is evolved to physically relax and mentally release during each exhalation, relaxing to the degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and less defining, at least until the next inhalation, and then the whole thing begins again. So, quick review. The most efficient way to do all that is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this each time we feel our body inhaling, and to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease each time we feel our body exhaling. We can do it for at least 5 minutes, once every 12 hours or so. You can do it more if you want, but be respectful of your body's energy levels. Anything done to excess will exhaust you, including making love, including sunbathing, including drinking water, including just taking a deep breath. We can only breathe in so far until our lungs reach capacity. Then we have to honor our lungs and allow them to breathe out. Our job is not to rigidly force our body and brain to do things that they have not evolved to do. Our job is to be flexible and respectful of our limitations, and to listen to our body's own feedback. Pleasure and pain, interest and fatigue, these are our body's ways of saying, okay, this what we're doing right now is A-okay, or what you're doing right now is not sustainable in the moment. And if you say, well, that's inconvenient, yes, it is. There are an innumerable number of variables we are subject to, and many of them change from moment to moment. Fortunately, the more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds could flow from not scattered spontaneity, but centered spontaneity, where things work out for the best. Not always in the most glamorous way, not always in the way that seems the most convenient in the moment, not in the way that tickles our pride, but in a way that is most sustainable. Let's return now to this morning's lesson text. Let's go back so we can capture the literary momentum. The sufferings of beings is the mind of perfect purity. When it manifests as fully perfected, unmoving, and unstirring, it abides equally in all, just like infinite space. All complex life forms, such as humans, have an autonomic nervous system. With each breath, a choice is foisted upon us. The choice is, do we actively compete against our autonomic nervous system through over-focus, over-analysis, and basically being rigid and controlling? Or do we passively cooperate with our autonomic nervous system by noticing and relaxing in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation? Anybody who does that finds that their anxiety and aggression calm, and their empathy increases. Empathy that fuels kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, and kind commerce. For the highest love is not contrived, but rather it's the spontaneous byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. Having completed our opening lesson, we could now shift gears. By the way, if you got a question, if you have one question for me, now's the time to type it. Assuming that question is not about creating the longer-lasting light bulb, but pertaining to Buddhist philosophy or meditation. Let's shift gears. It is Obi-Wan Kenobi Wednesday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. After approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping, this is the Dzogchen Sunday Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. I am quite the weirdo. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus so that I could spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. That's right, folks. For those of you playing at home, that's N3. That's N cubed. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this morning's live stream, let's play with the latest iteration of Very Easy Meditation Practice Text, or Sadhana, if you're nasty. Patricia Snodgrass, to you I send a psychic hug, and of course to Julian too, and everybody else and their kitty cats and their doggies. Everyone gets a psychic hug. You get a psychic hug. And you get a psychic hug. Everyone gets a psychic hug. Let us rest. So to designate our first collection of 12 sets of 12 inhalations, let's rephrase this again. To designate our first bonus collection of 12 inhalations, let's rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger, upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. To keep track of the next of our bonus set of 12 inhalations, we can count on our right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've just explored how we can count 12 repetitions or 12 inhalations on our right hand. On our left hand, we can count 12 sets of 12 inhalations each. Our first, second, and third sets, our fourth, fifth, and sixth sets, our seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th sets. All the while maintaining or keeping in mind that this is part of our first collection of 12 sets of 12 inhalations, which is a way of using our own body to time approximately 13 minutes. I have not seen the latest Superman movie, but I have seen a bunch of trailers. And there's this one guy with a bad haircut who looks like he's part of the Green Lantern Brigade, for want of a better term. And he can use his psychic powers to really just kick ass. But that's not our job as meditators. We are not the great Avengers. We are not the Green Lantern. We are not Alec Baldwin's The Shadow. But we get to notice and release and love, sometimes up close and personal, sometimes from a distance. let us now shift gears by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, and as such count our bonus set of 12 inhalations upon our right hand. As we breathe in, silently and mentally, we recite the demonstrative pronoun this. As we breathe out, silently and mentally, we recite the one-syllable verb ease. While continuing to rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap, we can count an additional 12 standard sets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, of 12 inhalations each, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, if this is overwhelming or difficult, all you got to do is follow along with me once every 12 hours for a week or two. And before you know it, Bob's your uncle. To begin our third collection of 12 sets of 12 inhalations, we can turn our attention back to our right index finger, and instead of resting its great knuckle upon the tip of our left index finger, we can slide that right index finger down and rest the second knuckle upon the left index finger. We could then count 12 inhalations on our right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We can count an additional 12 sets of 12 inhalations each on our left hand. 1, 2, 3 sets, 4, 5, 6 sets, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sets of 12 inhalations each. And if you've just tuned in, remember, the easiest way to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this each time we inhale. And the easiest way to practice meditation, the most effective way, is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's dusk meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.